Welcome to ParadoxWalk podcast, specializing in paranormal activity, UFOs, cryptids, glitches in the Matrix, anything completely out of the ordinary. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing two people that have two different experiences of almost being plucked out of this world. One is just mentally, and the other one got plucked out of their world and seems to be put into this one, but completely mind, body, and soul. I'm recording this in November of 2022. So I'm going to start with this one here. This guy, his friend claims to almost like consciously have been pulled out of his body for years. And he starts off with one story where he has missing time, and then from there it leads to something way more serious and quite frightening, honestly. I'm going to start reading here, and this was a comment. A lot of good stories you get from comments under videos of other things. Interesting videos seem to spawn interesting comments. So here, quote, Richard told me when he was 12 years old, he was in his living room at his parents' house, and he was playing with his friend. It was 6 p.m. in the afternoon, or that's evening, I guess, and he was playing with his friend. Next thing you know, she went to roll the dice, and he woke up in his bed, and he was kind of confused. When he got up out of his bed, he went to the kitchen and looked at the clock on the microwave, and it was 1 a.m. in the morning. He was extremely baffled at this because he remembers playing with his friend at 6 p.m. the day prior, and he went back to his room. He had so much fear at that moment. He told me that after that experience, what it felt like at 1 in the morning. He said the air was stale, almost like static. It's hard for him to explain in greater detail what he meant by that, but he said the air was dead. He then began to tell me that he felt like there was a presence there, but he couldn't see it, but he could feel it. And it was really thick in the air. He could just not understand how at 6 p.m. he was playing with his friend, and at 1 a.m. he wakes up in his bed, and all that time had passed. So then he told me when he got to age 14, something else happened to him, and it scares him every single day, which is pretty shocking because Richard is one of the toughest dudes I know. He told me all he remembers was that he was in the kitchen peeling carrots with his mother, and he went to throw away the peelings, and that was the last thing he remembers. And that from that age all the way to about 26 years old, he doesn't remember anything. When he asked his siblings and his mother what he was like during those years of amnesia, he calls it, they say to him that he was like a zombie, that he didn't talk much, kept to himself. He wasn't moody, he was just completely and utterly dull. Richard expresses to me sometimes with tears in his eyes that he literally feels like he was plucked out of existence for that time, that he doesn't remember anything. You can't remember girlfriends. You can't remember friends he made. Can't remember his studies at school. He can't remember anything. It was like he was plucked out of that time of his life, and it really freaks him out. He also wanted to show me something that really freaked him out, and it freaks me out as well. He has these weird marks on his body and places on the outside of his left knee and behind his left ear, or these perfect oval scars. And when you feel them, they're actually like holes, like indentations. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you. The next one here is actually type of, I think a few episodes back I did one about people that claim they're from a completely like other world, like another version of Earth. I used to laugh at people that talked about UFOs and stuff until I saw one. And then I don't laugh at that anymore. So I'm not sure I'm going to laugh at things anymore when people tell these stories. So this is, I'm Not From Here is the name of this post. And I think they follow it up with the words, this is a long time coming. Quote, I am not from here. And by here, I don't mean where I currently live. I mean where any of us live. Anyone reading this right now. It's now a few days after my 30th birthday, and this time of year always strikes me because I started kindergarten on my birthday when I turned 5. I thought, at that time, everyone did that. You turn 5, and you turn 5, you go to school. I didn't realize my birthday just happened to coincide with the first day of school. And a little over a year later, in about 2 weeks' time, it will have been 24 years to the day that my entire world vanished. I was born in San Diego and lived in a poor suburb of San Diego as a child. I lived in an apartment complex called Lemon Vine Apartments that were a bit slummier versions of the Lemon Vine apartments you find in Lemon Grove, a suburb of San Diego. My parents were divorced but friendly. My mother was young when she had me, and she was beautiful. She was in her early 20s and was aspiring to be a model and would regularly take trips to LA to do photo shoots. Now he changes this up later on in the thing. He calls it glamour modeling, and a lot of people don't know that I guess actual word glamour modeling is like softcore, almost like nudity and stuff. But he says no, she didn't do that because he didn't know what that was. So I don't know, to me glamour always meant like fancy and like stuff like that. So that's what he was using that as. Like, she did modeling for magazines. She had a darker skin tone, being 1/4 Indian, not native, like Indian from the country India. And it gave her an exotic look. My favorite picture of her as a child was her modeling in a luxurious wedding dress for a bridal company. I used to sleep with that picture when she would go to LA, and I would stay with my dad, who worked for the city of San Diego. They shared custody pretty evenly, and we even did Christmas together as a family, even though they had split when I was still a baby. My dad, his girlfriend, my mom, who was single, and me. Maybe things weren't as good between them as I remember, but I was 6, so if there was drama behind the scenes, they did a good job of hiding it from me. On September 17th, 1996, I was staying at my dad's parents' in Riverside, California. They had a small farm where they raised chickens, pigs, and goats. No horses or sheep or anything, but my grandma had several pet ducks that would eat seed from your hand, fly away, and return every year like clockwork. My dad had to work at night for a week, and my mom was in LA, so I stayed with my grandparents. Schools back then were pretty cool with this kind of thing, and I was sent home with the sorts of nonsense assignments you'd expect a first grader just come back to school from summer break ended. The 17th was the third day I was staying with my grandparents, and my grandpa had told me to be careful outside because he'd seen a rattlesnake and wasn't sure where it had went. So since no one knew where the mystery snake had gotten off to, 6-year-old me decided to go hunting for it. In hindsight, letting a 6-year-old go looking around a farm for a rattlesnake was probably not in any parenting 101 handbook. But it was the 90s, and I guess they didn't actually expect me to find it. There were woods on the property, but I wasn't allowed to go in there, so they probably figured that's where the snake had gotten off to. I'd spent all day outside playing jungle exploration on the farm, trying to track down this rattlesnake, and much to my excitement, when I decided to open the well house, which, for those who don't have one, looks kind of like green electrical boxes on the side of the road, there it was, curled up, rattling away. I immediately slammed the door shut and ran to my grandparents' house to tell them I'd found it. Now, this might be my 6-year-old memory exaggerating, but I'm pretty sure that snake was at least 900 feet long, give or take. I found it, though. I was excited to tell my grandpa I found the snake so he could do what he did, go out and shoot the thing. I ran in the back door of the house, which leads you to the laundry room, and through the kitchen. I paid no mind to anything until I turned left and entered the living room, expecting to see my grandparents, my uncle, and the neighbor all sat in the living room where I'd left them, except they weren't there. And it wasn't the same living room anymore. The furniture was completely wrong. The hard and memorably uncomfortable hardwood furniture my grandma loved so much was gone. The coffee table he made out of a tree stump was gone, replaced by fluffy grandma-looking furniture. A 3-person sofa with floral designs on it. The TV was in the wrong place, and newer than my grandpa's old sit-on-the-ground cabinet TV. The hardwood paneling on the walls was gone, or at least covered with blue wallpaper. The hardwood floor was a shaggy off-white carpet. The pictures of my dad, my uncle, me, and my grandparents were gone from the walls, replaced by paintings and pictures of people I didn't know. As confused as I was by this, I was more confused by everyone missing. In my 6-year-old brain, I accepted that they might have completely rearranged the house while I went out looking for the snake. But I didn't believe it at all that they'd just leave me alone. And I didn't see anyone leave. I didn't see cars go down the road, so I walked out the front door, which was attached to the living room, as they usually are, and I thought maybe they'd gone to the chickens or the pigs. Both should have been visible from the front porch, but the chicken coop was gone, and the pig pen lost its fencing, and there were no pigs to be found.